Good morning, everybody. Well, yesterday wasn't what was expected. And so basically, where do we go from here? And what does it mean? It's not totally out of the question that things turn around to resume the power move from last Wednesday. It's certainly in question as we look at a few other things. It's more so in question. This market has been erratic, to say the least. You just see the last whips up and down prior to, and it was a news related move, right? So, I mean, within the uptrend that was going on against the existing downtrend, the move up, the depth of retracement was significant and it did reach resistance. And this one was even more significant since it took out resistance. So based on Wednesday, of course, there's this expectation that it could continue to go up toward that pivot. Now, I'm not so sure. I mean, it's only Tuesday, so this weekly bar is far from done. But you just don't like the looks of this in that, you got this consolidation and it breaks out, and now we're, back down to the area of the low of last week. And the S&Ps, what we need to see. So when I look at a chart, regardless of the time frame, applying what we call bar by bar analysis, and I see this, and it's like, all right, the depth of retracement into Wednesday's bar is on the edge of negating it, and we see that there's really nothing to stop it from going down other than some arbitrary retracement level or a whole number. Like, so 400, it closed under 400, but pushing through a number, it's an area. And so things could turn around today. So when I look at this and I think to myself, what do I need to have happen today to shake off yesterday's negativity and what could happen, right? Not like a Hail Mary pass, so to speak. What could happen within the context of this up move? Well, today could turn out to be a green day. And while it wouldn't be ideal because it's so close to this area up here, within the context of this up move, if the spiders were to have a red bar ignored, well, we'd have to go with that and we'd have a stop under the low. Now, maybe it comes down here and then, complete retracement just becomes a mess, because now it's at support and it's at this support level. And what do I do with that after a deep retracement? I need to see another bar form. So as I look at this within the uptrend, I just don't have a high probability pattern here to trade from this time frame. And at the end of the week, we'll see exactly where this is. So pre-market, things are just whipping around here. See where they are. They're at yesterday's close, so unchanged. You can see right there, 000. There's just a lot of uncertainty here. Fed chair's comment moves the market like, it's the start of a new bull market. I mean, which is more so down here, at least a bull move versus coming up here. And it's basically, it's a wait and see. How is this going to unfold? Because we just don't have high probability patterns. So looking at the futures, which we always do, 24-hour chart, so retraced a bit deeper. That was yesterday, trending down. And so when we see this, I think, okay, it's going to come down here. That's the thought. It's got to pivot. Now let's just move down. So it's a tough situation here intraday because the pivot low is so close. I've got two pivot highs here. So if you short it here, like if you wanted to short it here near the pivot high, which is a viable, reasonable thing to think, and then it's going to go down here. and with that, if it takes it out, your stop is relatively close. So it's reasonable. It's not great because you're so close to the pivot low. And Yeah, I see. You're pointing out the rising 20. It's just a garbage setup, you know. So sorry for the crude analogy here, but back in a prior life, many years ago, as an auto mechanic coming out of an automotive school and talking to some old timers out there and trying to fix this old car up, and the guy says, "Greg, you're trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit." And so, there's a big meaning in that. And it's like, that's what this market reminds me of right now. It's like we had this great day Wednesday. We're looking for follow through, retracement here, looking at intraday patterns. And no matter how I look at it, I don't come up with a high probability scenario right now. So the thing to do is just, you can do day trades, intraday trades, you can do credit spreads, of course. But from swing trading, looking at the markets, we just don't have it. So, and the good thing about that is recognizing it, and you just don't get involved. Right? It's not our setup here. It's not a high probability thing. So look, if it can, you got these pivot highs here on the S&Ps, rising 20 MA. There's no support here except what we would call like minor support, which is subjective because there's nothing directly to the left. Anyway, if it can get above these two pivot highs, it opens up the door to maybe turning today into a green day. So that is really what to do, is to say, all right, let me put an alert up there. And you can put an alert here down the bottom too. And you're definitely going to want to know here, because if this continues to fall down here, that is where buyers are going to show up, at least for day trades. So, that is the approach. Set your alerts here. If it gets above there, it opens up the door to move higher. If it gets down here, it sets up for the move lower down to that support, black and white. So SPX, I was really thinking that there'd be more premium on the downside down below here. And, there isn't. 39.45 is 80 by 95. And, it is, it's right down here, which isn't bad. It isn't bad, because if it comes down there, there's going to be buyers. And, it would have already come from the top all the way down to the major support. So you've got a very significant line in the sand there where buyers would show up. And up above was 40.45. Let's see if it's that now, 40.45, which I don't really like, because again, futures at that rising 20, it is on some support. We just don't have the premium or juice, as Dan calls it, that's far away, that makes them no-brainers as they were not too long ago. And not having that premium down here, like which might have been in the past, maybe that's a bullish sign. I'm not sure. It's just a thought that, hey, they're not, and maybe it's complacency. So as I go through the thought process, trying to figure out, what might happen here, I don't come to any definitive conclusions other than I need to see something more today. And that's what it is right now. Internals aren't helping us much. I'll look at them, Robert. NASDAQ futures, a bit better. It's still messy, but, come up to this resistance area. But with a big power bar like that, it should have chopped around, or this bottoming tail bar should have been a launch pad where it went higher, and it didn't. So, it comes down to yesterday's low. We got this consolidation here, and we need something more. Internals, neutral, nothing. I can't get an edge here, so to speak, as to looking at different markets, different timeframes, market internals. And, if you look at yesterday, not that, I want that. Um, here, pretty negative, where it was. So not like this was at minus 1,000 on that way down and saying, well, the selling wasn't all that bad, even though the trend was down. Sentiment, was picking up, but not, like they just buying so many puts that says it's a bottom. That one. This one here. Yeah, so here you can see at the end of the day the amount of selling on that red bar. And, anyway, so no advantage there. Saying volumes at 4,000 yesterday were very large, particularly on the put side. So, deciphering all of that, there were many more bearish bets, McGraw, and which makes sense, on the move down. All of that was day trading. And those are going to expire today. Open interest only increased by 5,000. So the takeaway from what I'm reading there, what you're posting is, it really comes to the same conclusion as what I'm saying here, as far as there's no definitive information there to provide a bias, a strong bias. Yeah. So whether I look at technicals or we look at options activity, it leads us to the same thing, which is meaning, option traders, technical traders, looking at things as I'm explaining in here, we're all on the same page. So that just leads to more uncertainty because no one's confident at this point. So let's see what happens. Things can turn on a dime, but what's going on here, up and down, up and down, you want to stay the hell out of that because it's like getting punched in the face every which way you turn. It's like by the time it moves up and you think about taking the money's gone, and vice versa. So SOH or find something that's on its own page. YM, I mentioned yesterday this bottoming tail bar, a slowing momentum bar, and a greater than 100% retracement. And, and I communicated that, look, while we had those other bullish bars, that Wednesday bar, I don't like this. This was leading. And so it's like, all right, well, this doesn't have to go up. It could go sideways while the others play catch up. That still might be the case, but so this week is not done. And look, at the end of the week, if we've got a red candle closing under that bar, our bias is going to be like, this can come down to the 200, the converging 50 and 200. And that leads into, okay, options expiration on the 16th, Fed announcement on the 14th. Today's the 6th. You have to think that whatever's done well in the short term here, institutions really don't want to sell aggressively. Whatever profits they had, they'd rather not. I think that's usually the way it is. Yeah. So yesterday I posted that chart of the volatility index, and when Dan started speaking, and so here's the chart, and this was like another, flying in the ointment, so to speak, of that. The VIX, all year has been coming down to this level. And, that has been where, top, maybe top. And now, big up day last Wednesday, that gets negated to close under there. And we have, the situation here. And so that leads us to a stronger bias that prices would come lower. So, right now, call spreads, in patterns that are turning bearish like that, that makes sense. So you don't have a definitive turn, but you've got the beginnings of a relatively potent turn. And you have to be a little apprehensive about getting whipsawed in this market. I mean, that's just, I think, intelligent because that's what's been going on, which leads to uncertainty. And, do I want to trade? But, with credit spreads, it's like, okay, if it expires in 4 days and it's far enough away and there's premium, that's a reasonable trade versus say, hey, do I want to short this here? I don't, because, well, it could work out, you know, it's at support, whips back up again. So, I mean, it's repetitive at this point, but you're getting the gist of it. But this being down here as it is and seeing what's happened in the past, where, up here was where there was a greater opportunity on the long side, even though, you see the side, that's a weekly bar coming down as big as it is. That wasn't pleasant, but then it reverses back up. So now this is here, while there, you got this up bar. If that falls apart, it comes more in alignment with what this volatility index is telling us. So, all right. That. So there's a big retracement. That was the worst, retesting here, but it's going sideways. So big bars up and big bars down. I mean, that's just a mess. Call it whatever you want. It's a mess. There's the, the ETF, and negating Wednesday's bar. It's at support. So intraday, the expectation is buyers would show up here. So do I want to short this? Hell no. Do I want to go long? Maybe for a day trade. I mean, I was thinking that yesterday, actually here. I think it was on the 5-minute. I was looking, was like right here. Right here. I was like, okay, pivot low, pivot high, going to take out these highs, and it couldn't. And the next leg down. And then it just kept trending down throughout the day. So just totally evaporating, the bullish scenario there. All right. So transports, that got ugly. Interest rates, gapping up here today a bit. We've got this turn. We went through this yesterday about it being in this area of major support. So that was okay, going to keep going down where we get this market going up a bit more. Now it looks like no. The dollar coming down here into this major support. So takeaway here is, don't get excited about long or short at this point. And, is it worth getting involved for what appears right now to be probably not a lot of money one way or the other? But the credit spreads aren't a lot of money, but, if it's probably the most reliable vehicle right now, right? Something like this, a big reversal down. If it was a credit spread up above that red bar expiring at the end of the week, that scenario makes sense. Just going through the rest here, crude oil, right? Up, right back down again. So that's what we're dealing with. It'll change. It gets frustrating, of course, but we accept what it is. We continue to do the factory work and see how things come together. We're more an advantage to us. Well, yours, Dan.
Good morning. So yesterday we were trimming some positions. Now I'm neutral, but I still have more bullish setups than bearish. This was one we entered yesterday. It's a 1, 2, 3 bottoming pattern, still looks good. This little guy. So this is a pro gap. It's igniting a new move. Provided it holds. So it's a shock gap. But there's there's no pattern for me. You gotta let it set up and give it a pattern. Fitch, nasty 1, 2, 3. I don't like 1, 2, 3 as far from the 20 because they like pretend this bar was cut in half. And it was just a closing breakdown here. And then I had these inside bars. I would pound that thing short. But it's down a lot. But if it can't bounce in 30 minutes, you couldn't short yesterday's low for a day trade. X on here, I see gapping down. This is a topping pattern with a price void. That's a call spread candidate. This thing, big old gap over this red bar. This is a put spread watch, and also long stocks. JPM got an upgrade, and Jamie Dimon was on CNBC talking today, and he's still bearish. He's been saying we're getting the recession for sure. See, they're going to be whatever. But he was always, he's a good speaker. He's a smart man, obviously. He was trashing the Biden over this energy policy. It's just, he's saying it's so retarded. You can't just turn off fossil fuels. We have enough here, so on. And then he was also funny. He called some of those tokens, whatever they're called, reminds me of that meme dog coin, Doji coin. He called them, yeah, whatever. I don't know. But he called them pet rocks. And I just started laughing because that's exactly what I called it when that dog coin came out. I know it's pronounced Doji coin, but dog coin is a better term in my opinion. The guy made it as a joke. And then it had a value of, what was it, $60 billion before Musk went on Saturday Night Live trashing it down. It's a pet rock. It was, but that just shows you how we trade people, not fundamentals, because supply and demand drove it up there. Sierra India, this is kind of one of these crypto trading stocks. What a beautiful breakdown here. Now, this is also a great example of, we're going to be talking about bottoming patterns, MT live in a couple of weeks. Now look at these moving averages, and this is just a consolidation and a downtrend. There's absolutely zero signs of a bottoming pattern here. And now it's another gap breakdown. It's extended, but all-time lows, who the heck knows? But that looks horrible. Gas, little bio here getting smacked. Bios have risk. Here's another one. MRTX getting whacked down to $78. But this one's gapping a support and was a bottoming pattern. Look at all these 3 MAs. So this one, I didn't look up the news because I don't care. But look at this one we were talking about yesterday. Where are you, Madogle? This has to have pending news. I'm just 99.9% certainty because the $35 out of the money puts closed at $6.10. And I think I'm actually going to do one myself today. That was 35 less 6 would give me a cost basis of 29. So even with a big gap, look at this monthly. So yeah, it can go lower, but I just calculated risk. Here's what I can say with 100% confidence. I have better odds of making money on selling that put for $6 than I do playing the lottery. So it's a mathematical fact. So if that's your wheelhouse, as I call it, there's another trade idea. This Mobley thing, spin off of Intel, trades very wildly. but the $30 puts are juicy. So let's keep an eye on this to sell a put. And with a big stop, and we'll take assignment. But if we sell the 30s for a dollar and change, that means our cost basis is here. That ain't bad. Wouldn't you all like to own this stock down here at 29 bucks? Gap down, MRT. Oh, that's the other buyer I just talked about. Lima whiskey. It's technically not a 1, 2, 3, just because yesterday's bar retraced a little deeper. Nevertheless, same message. That's a beautiful pattern. You know, I agree with Greg on the market bias, so I'm going to be very select in new longs, but this one qualifies. So we talked about that. My GE got an upgrade, but no pattern. LPI, this was a closing breakdown. Look at this. It's an end. Look at it. This was just steady selling all day yesterday. And remember, the markets bounced into the close, and this did nothing. So that's a day trade short idea. Fleur, again, not technically a 1, 2, 3 because of the deep retracement, but yet a small breakdown failure, wide range breakout. That's a put spread idea. Sono here. It is a 1, 2, 3. I don't like 1, 2, 3s after 4 bar advances, but it's a nice weekly. So ideally, we get another inside day or two, and then that has room. UAL was a broke out yesterday, gapping up here a little bit. That's put spread idea. RCL call spread idea. Got a downgrade, gapping under the support. So let's watch this 30-minute low call spread. Stone. Somebody in the green room mentioned yesterday, it's just going multi-month trading range. I have an alarm, I think at 1180, but over this red bar could be the breakout. These were a couple earning stocks. This one gap over this red bar, I already talked about this one. So this is a put spread idea, possibly long stock. Sumo gap over a red bar. So this is a long idea. I'm going to put that on this bottom right. Sumo looks good. That's a pro gap. Multi-month sideways trend, gapping over a red bar. If the weekly gets going, well, target high 8s is all. I mean, it is a monster double bottom, but this is a lot of overlapping bars over here. AutoZone, look at this thing, all-time highs. What a beast. Incredible. EXLS. Yeah, topping pattern. Ferg had earnings, but it's a big mess. I don't know what to do with that. SIG, online jeweler, gapping up, maybe a Condor, gapping up to all this resistance. So, just wait 5 minutes at least, let the option market kind of tighten up a little bit. But the idea would be to sell put spread under, call spread above. Base is rallying here on earnings. WDH. This was what I said yesterday was ripping, and it had earnings today. I'm not a big fan of dollar stocks. Yeah, Stephen, I actually closed some of mine yesterday into strength because I had a big position on, and I still think there's some pending news because it is acting weird. I agree with you. It's acting weird right now. Jill, no pattern. Heps. Bottoming pattern, but a couple bars. What else do I have up here? Yext. Yext is a 1, 2, 3. Yext is 30-minute high, maybe over yesterday's high. AEO is also a 1, 2, 3, but I just like these closer to support because they, if they fail, the price void leaves room to fall as opposed to having a big base of support. All right, so peg, I already got an alarm, but this is nice. That's wide range breakout and going sideways. That looks good. Here's my Madogle. Let me see where the puts are at today. They're already $1 lower. They're 5 by 6, whereas yesterday they were 610 by 620. I was so tempted to pop one into the close. I told Greg that I was going to do one today. But I want that $6. But it's still in the downtrend on the 15. Yeah, looks good. ACB low alarm, but we're still in it. Diamond's the best 5-minute chart right here. Sure, I got an alert on pig 60, 80. No, I don't. Peg's utility. Redfin, another breakout failure. MJ. Yeah, we know marijuana is tough to trade. We're in this GRWG still. That's actually, look at that, relative strength. Still held yesterday's low. We legged into a covered call. Mixie was on yesterday's list. This is still relative strength. Beautiful end of day base. This looks like a nice 30-minute high. How's our Lima whiskey? Oh, I should have triggered. I didn't set an alarm. All right, so that triggered Lima whiskey. $7.76. Arms here.